I've been asked if I think that Friday the 13th is unlucky. Of course not. If I've told people once, I've told them 8 times. I think that every day, just as lucky or just as unlucky as the other. It's what we make of things that makes us lucky or unlucky. Oh, hey, look, it's a heads up penny. Now on with the show. We have over 100 years of wonderful recorded music out there, so why do most people listen to the same 100 songs? Like the treasures on the shelves of a thrift shop, there are so many great songs out there waiting for us to find. Let's find those treasures together. I am David Rankin, and this is the Old Mill Shop.
Next segment is Fresh Off the Truck.
I don't intend to have a fresh off the truck segment every week, but if good artists are going to keep releasing good songs every week, then I'll have one week after week if needed. So this week, we're celebrating the reactivation of an incredible 80s and 90s pop band. Tracy Thorn and Ben Watt met at the University of Hull in England, and each had solo records with the independent Cherry Red Records, and Thorn was also in the trio Marine Girls. They started dating, and one day, Watt saw Turner's Furniture Store, which had the slogan, "Everything but the girl," meaning they had everything that a man needed to get married and set up a household except the lady. Inspired by the slogan, the two started Everything But the Girl, the band, and released their first single in 1982 and their first album in 1984. They had several successful albums and a serious health scare. Watt almost died from autoimmune condition, and then the album Amplified Heart came out with the song Missing. Missing was a bit of a hit on its own, but it became a worldwide phenomenon after Todd Terry released several techno club remixes of the song with the band's support. This song became a crossover success outside of the EDM clubs, going to number 2 on the Hot 100 charts. I experienced it in college, just as I was meeting Paula, and it stuck in my psyche ever since. In 2000, Thorn and Watt quietly put Everything But the Girl into hiatus. They were raising kids, and they quietly got married. Both stayed busy in the music industry, releasing albums and working on other people's albums, and releasing a couple of songs themselves, but not under the Everything But the Girl name. Thorn had even publicly doubted that they would ever release new music under the band, since they didn't feel like they were in the mental space to do so. But in 2021, the two changed their mind and decided to try a new album. And the result is the album Fuse, and this first single, Nothing Left to Lose. I've already listened to it 5 times since I found it in the last 24 hours. Thorn has a deeper, more mature voice, commiserate with her age now, but she uses it to just as good an effect as ever. The song itself is a techno-pop jewel that makes me want to dance, but it's lighter and a bit more repetitive than I would have first expected. Even so, it's a wonderful song talking about the love that the singer has for her partner, and that the two have nothing left to lose loving each other. So I've already put this song in my playlist, and I'm looking forward to the April release for the rest of the album. So that's the album Fuse, the song Nothing Left to Lose by Everything But the Girl.
Today's 2-for-1 special, Egg and Daughter Night by John Prine.
Before we get into the 2-for-1 special, let's go over the music minutes for the week. So Monday on the Vintage Corner, it was Kind-Hearted Woman, Take One by Robert Johnson. Tuesday is Papa Come Quick, Jody and Chico by Bonnie Raitt. Wednesday is I Remember Everything by John Prine. Thursday is Fantasia by Robert Miles. And Friday, Killing Me Softly by the Fugees. Before we get to the 2-for-1 special, I want to remind everyone about 2 special gifts that the Old Mill Shop are giving for the duration of January. The first QR code that's up is the Apple Music playlist for January. And then we're going to switch to the other side, and that is the YouTube playlist in the month of January. Please check out one or both of these. We will be updating that to the end of the month and leaving them out there till the middle of February. If you're interested in this as a common service, we're going to be doing a special to where any sponsorship for the next few months gets you access to that for a year as long as you stay a sponsor. Now for the 2-for-1 special, Egg and Daughter Night by John Prine. On Wednesday, we covered an extremely melancholy, weighty song by John that you could easily identify as, well, he knows he's dying, so he's going to sing this song. Egg and Daughter Night is the exact opposite. This feels exactly like what one of your crazy uncles would tell you about him and his brother, your father, at a Christmas party to embarrass your dad when he's talking about how you don't seem to have a lot of sense. He starts the theme about being in Nebraska, chasing the girls at the Egg and Daughter Night, going with all the farmers who are bringing their daughters into the roller rink, and he's trying to find one to date and to maybe get to know a little better, even in the biblical sense. Then he switches over from young to old, talking about how he's now an old man who got his name on a grave somewhere. He's in the nursing home, 1 foot in the grave, but he's still got his funny bone and he's still going to be raising some hell. So it's an absolute lovely song. It's cute and it's lighthearted. You're just uplifted by it. It's such a joy to listen to. So go out, Egg and Daughter Night by John Prine. As we left it last week, the music industry had settled on the vinyl disc as their primary method of providing music to the people. Albums were primarily sent out on large 10 or 12 inch discs that spun at 33 1/3 RPM, while singles and other specialty content like read-along discs, etc., were smaller 45 RPM discs. Just as that format started getting settled, along came a new contender, the 8-track cassette. While similar to older technologies like reel-to-reel tape, the 8-track took the same amount of music that would fit on an LP and put it in a cartridge that could be played in a home stereo, a car-mounted player, or even a few portable players. Now, the 8-track wasn't perfect. The cartridge itself was large, the tapes were prone to be made cheaply and would fall apart, and car players especially were bad to break tapes and eat the tape by pulling it out of the cartridge. However, it was music on the go, our music on the go, and people absolutely flocked to it for a few years. However, it didn't last as long as people first expected, because another technology that was derived from reel-to-reel tapes was right behind it, the compact cassette. This was actually created earlier in 1963, but it took a while to work its way through the market and start coming out for mass consumption. The compact cassette gave us a small format where one side of the cassette could be the entire length of an LP. The 8-track would have to switch sides halfway through the one side of an LP record, so you'd have what they called song fade out. The physical format of the tape was cheaper, and the cartridge itself was much simpler and a lot more durable. The tape would last a lot longer. You'd occasionally have a bad tape player eat a cassette cartridge, but it was much less common than with 8-tracks. Also, it was rarer than 45 singles, but because a cassette could be made to a custom length, you even had some cassette singles that were produced for the public market in the 80s. I bought singles instead of entire albums if someone had one song on an album and I didn't like the rest of the album. I'd go try to find the song on cassette single and just buy the song. Cassettes allowed the creation of mixtapes because we had recorders, not just tape players. A lot of people would have two cassette decks in a boombox or in their component system. You could put one tape on play and the other on record. And not only could you copy the entire album, which you weren't getting a perfect copy, which you're getting a decent copy, but you could take one song from one album and one song from another and end up with your own little mixtape of your favorite songs. And that could be traded around and say, look, I have better taste than you. These are the songs I like. And finally, the tape was the very first portable platform for music that we had control over. Obviously, by the 80s, you had pocket radios that could be carried inside a pants pocket or on clip to a belt, but 8-tracks were not going to be portable. Sony developed the Walkman as a cassette player, and we could listen to cassette tapes while exercising, strap them over your shoulder or connect them to belt, put them in a fanny pack for the height of fashion. The tape satisfied every need that the market seemed to develop, except that the tapes would eventually wear out, and they weren't as stable as vinyl. In the early 90s, out came the compact disc. The disc was sized about the same as a 45 record, and it was sized to fit in a drive that could go in a computer bay so that it could also be used with computers. But the CD was able to hold the entire contents of an LP on one disc, and even though that the file would have a light compression, that compression was designed, a regular individual couldn't tell the difference between it and a song on a regular vinyl record. The CD is very resilient and very portable. Car manufacturers came up with CD players for the car that included buffering so that if you hit a bump, the song wouldn't completely stop. My first CD player was a large boombox from one of the big box stores in Lexington, and I carried it from place to place for quite a few years until it finally broke. Eventually you had CD players at the size of Walkmans that also buffered so that you could run. So again, by the time the CD started hitting, you have a portable format that is very resilient. But just as the CD was coming out in the late 90s, we started having the MP3 player and digital formatting. At first, the digital music players were quite small and were little more than replacements for the mixtape, because I remember I had to struggle for the very first MP3 player I owned to get more than 20 songs into it. But think about that, 20 to 30 songs in one little thing. That's 2 or 3 CDs I don't have to carry around. And if I pick different songs from different CDs, that I could want songs from 6 or 7 different CDs. I could put all my music on the computer and listen to it on the computer as well. As players grew and music format shrank with the MP4 format to where the iPod came out and could hold thousands of songs, and then the phone started being able to hold tens of thousands of songs. Now the phones are connected to the cloud and they can get to any song that you own in your whole collection. Even better, or some would say even worse, now you can rent your music. The major players have come up with formats that allow you to download a song that you want to play from them, and that song will only play as long as you're still a member of their subscription service. So I'm an Apple Music subscriber myself because I found that there's so much music out there that I want that I simply can't find physical media for anymore. And I can't afford to pay full price for every single album that I want to download. Instead, the artists get a cut every time I play one of their songs, and the rental company and Apple gets paid each month. And who knows where we're going next. I look forward to seeing where the next step is on music delivery. So on that note, we've reached the end of yet another Old Mill Shop. Keep searching for music new to you, and happy shopping.
Please come back for the next episode of the Old Mill Shop. Thanks to Apple for use of the Samantha voice. Thanks to Zapsplat at www.zapsplat.com for theme song and incidental music. Copyright David W. Rankin Jr., DBA The Old Mill Shop Music Experience.